On the auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima, my pranams to my gurus, the mother and Sri Aurobindo. My dear brothers and sisters, it's my privilege today to pass on to you the love and blessings of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. What I shall try to do in the next few minutes is to try and look at the various sources of knowledge. And before I do that, knowledge in the traditional sense is itself divided into two categories, Paravidya and Aparavidya. Paravidya, refers to the Param Vidya, that is the highest, the ultimate, and the total reality, which is beyond the sensory perception, which includes everything that we know and everything that we do not know, and everything that the seers and the mystics and the rishis have seen and tried to give us some glimpse of. So it is that the total existential reality that is the Paravidya, or the highest knowledge. That, of course, includes everything. But then, for convenience, we'd also talk of knowledge which is more ordinary in character, the type of knowledge we can get from schools and colleges. And that is what we call Paravidya, or the phenomenal reality. That is the reality which corresponds to phenomena. Phenomena have a beginning and an end. So this is the reality which is changing, ever changing. It has a beginning and an end, whereas Aparavidya has at its root the imperishable, everlasting reality, which is constant, which has always been there and will always be there. To understand the various sources of knowledge, I'll use as a base a verse from the Mahabharata. And although that seems to refer more to the Aparavidya, or the phenomenal reality, the process is to some extent overlapping, and we shall find that there's a great deal of practical value in what this verse from the Mahabharata tells us. Now, the verse is Acharyat Padam Adatte Padam Shishya Swamedhaya Padam Sah Brahmacharibhyah Padam Kala Kramena Cha. Now, this verse talks about four sources of knowledge, and attributes 1/4 of what we know to each of these. The 1/4 part doesn't have to be taken literally, of course, but what it says is that 1/4 of the knowledge we get from our teachers. And that, of course, is important. And when it comes to Paravidya, it comes to us from primarily the Guru. And that the Guru, has basically three functions, according to Sri Aurobindo. The first is the word of the Guru. That is what he tells us, the teaching, the learning in words. More important than the word, Sri Aurobindo says, is the example of the Guru, the example that he sets in front of us. And even more important than the example is the influence, that is his very presence, the subtle influence that he radiates. And that, in fact, is the most important. The second source of knowledge in this verse is the student's own effort. That is self-study, what he learns on his own. The dictum in education, self-taught is best taught. And that applies to knowledge in general. And in fact, one of the first principles of teaching, which Sri Aurobindo has talked about, is that nothing can be taught, which means that nothing can be taught if the student is unwilling to learn. So irrespective of the source of knowledge, what the student learns depends primarily on the willingness of the student to learn, how inquisitive he is, how curious he is, how much he really wants to learn, how thirsty he is for knowledge. That is what determines how much he will learn. So what he learns on his own is the second important source of learning. And this includes not only reading books, but it would also include reflecting on what the person has read and trying to apply it in his life. All that reinforces what he has learned from books, and reflected upon it and try to digest what he has learned. The third source of knowledge, according to this verse, Padam Sah Brahmacharibhyah, is that is the 1/4 of it comes from the fellow students. That is those who are studying with this person. But literally, it may mean those who are his classmates, but it also includes the peer group in general and the type of company he keeps. And that's why it's important to keep good company. That's what satsang literally means. And satsang is good company. If we keep good company, we'll always learn something positive from it. And of course, the opposite is also true. If we do not keep good company, we learn many bad things. So what we learn comes quite a bit. According to this, 1/4 of what we learned comes from the company that we keep, the people with whom we spend a lot of time. Now, time brings us to the fourth important source of learning. Padam kala kramena cha. Now, padam kala kramena cha, that is the passage of time. The passage of time itself is the fourth. It is true literally as well as in a figurative sense. Literally, yes, what we have learned takes time to undergo some sort of seasoning. And that is when we really uh, know it much better than in the beginning. So, allowing that time for the knowledge to be digested, assimilated, for that knowledge to sink in, for that knowledge to be internalized, we need time. And therefore, we can't learn in a great hurry. We do need a certain minimum time. Without that, we will not learn much. But apart from that, what time also does is by experiences of life, which teach us a lot. Life is a great uh, teacher in itself. And it also gives us an opportunity to apply what we know in practice, verify it through our own experience. And all this needs time. And therefore, time is an important ingredient of whatever we learn. And so these are the four major sources according to this verse: the teachers, uh, the student studying and learning on his own, uh, the company that we keep, including the classmates and the peer group, and last but not least, the passage of time. While I mean, this is a very convenient sort of and a very systematic and one might even say a pretty thorough look at the sources of knowledge. What we also have to remember is that the ultimate source of everything, including knowledge, is the divine itself. And everything else is a channel or a circumstance or an occasion created for us to learn something. So, in that sense, the ultimate giver is only one. The ultimate giver of everything, including knowledge, is one, and that is the divine itself, which has everything, including all the knowledge. Thank you.